helping you put the big P in profession. Here's our Career Sherpa, Julie Bauke.
Yeah, she's my girl. It's on the AcuteHearingCenters.com hotline on 700 WLW with our weekly career tune-up here. Julie, how's everything?
Fantastic. Glad to be with you today.
It's good. It's hanging in there. It's been a tough week.
I know it has.
Brutal. You know, last time we talked about that, it was this time, actually, maybe about where I knew we were coming out of or going into the news, and my brother calls me and says, "You got to get to the hospital now." And I just visited my mom the day before, so it would have been a week ago yesterday. She was fine. He said, "You need to be here right now. It's not good." And so I remember, I guess I remember talking to you. I have no idea what we talked about.
Last week?
We talked, and
I don't remember either.
It just, I kind of went through, you didn't know about it. I was going through the motions going, my mind's going a mile a minute. It's like, well, I can't just have dead air. And so hopefully it was, whatever we talked about was good. I don't recall it. I don't recall what happened at 11 or 12 because I had left immediately when we were done with this segment and told Jimmy, I know we're a little early, but play some commercials because it's an extraordinary circumstance. And so I drove like a bat out of hell. And fortunately, she held on till, for a good day and a half. So it was Wednesday. By Friday at 1:50 a.m., she passed. But, that's the last time we talked. So we probably could do the same topic. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, you know what? The truth is everything we do is brilliant. So I think we can just,
it's magic.
Let's just assume that. Let's go with that.
It's good to be. And the thing is, too, if you're going to, and everyone's going to go through this or you've gone through that, the biggest thing is certainly the support of friends like you, Julie, and family members. But the other thing, too, is getting back after a period of time to some routine. Routine helps a lot, I've been finding.
Sure.
So today we're talking about this, and it's an age issue, too. We have the baby boomers. That my mom was part of, that were born between 1945 and 1965. And I, with all due respect to the greatest generation, but as we saw with D-Day, there's not too many of them left. And they lived great lives and deserve everything that they get later in life and their great roar beyond because of what they did for this country. Generation X, that's my generation, between 66 and 85. Then you got your millennials, 85 to 97. Then Generation Z, 97. For the first time in American history, because of medical technology, because people are living so much longer, and because people are broker than ever, we have 5 generations now, Julie, that are working together. So there's a good chance, if you stay in the workforce, that you will be working for a Gen Zer. So Gen Zers born from 1997 onward are starting to supervise employees old enough to be their parents or grandparents. Mm-hmm. This is setting up for some unique issues in the workplace. Yes,
it is. So in the next 10 years, 75% of the workforce will be millennials. 75%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know what the percentages are of the other ones, but they are, and then the succeeding generations, they are going to change the way we work. And I don't know that, I remember my dad, when he was getting way up there and close to retirement, complaining about how the younger generation worked and how they were running the company. And of course, there was nothing positive to be said. It was, they're screwing it up, they're not doing this like we did, they're not doing that like we did. Part of this, it's just generational.
The way it's always been, though.
Yeah, of course.
The older generation thinks the newer generation sucks, and that's not true at all.
No, it's not. But there's a part of it that's just human, because you're like, you don't want to admit that maybe there might be different ways to do things, because then that might mean that you are obsolete or out of date. And nobody wants to, we all think we're still middle-aged. Mm-hmm. I would consider myself middle-aged, even though I am certainly not. So I think there's some self-fooling that we do, because as boomers, in leading workplaces, we certainly didn't do everything right, and neither will the succeeding generations. You have to remember that. When we were young and moving into our first leadership positions, we did a bunch of really stupid things because we were learning. And so the temptation to ascribe that to generational differences or these stupid millennials or Gen Zers, let's all take a breath and remember that when we were first, moving into higher level roles, we did a bunch of really dumb things too.
Yeah.
So let's give a little bit of a break.
But history is kind, and you'll remember how good things were, and it's like the good old. And I'll tell you what sucks is being someone who's always, well, for a long period, it seemed like I was always the youngest person in the room, and then something changed. I'm the old guy, and that is, I felt as a Gen Xer, Julie Bauke, that I got. It's like getting. I always use this analogy. It's like the person who gets to the party after like all the illicit drugs and booze and hookers are gone, and it's like, man, you should have been here like 5. It was awesome. I always felt like that guy. Like it never was like, wow, I was never part of that because baby boomers did that, and it was like I came in, it was a lot more buttoned down. And by comparison, today's generation, things are way more buttoned down than they were when I first came into the workplace, and so they would like to hear our stories. But I think that's probably the way it's always been.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some things, and I know we're broadly generalizing here, but there's some things to how millennials want to live and work that we can certainly learn from and get on board with. They are, as a generation, less concerned with how and where the work gets done, and just more concerned that the work gets done.
Yeah.
Which is, as you get older, we're hearing the same things from clients who are in their 50s. Like, man, this idea of showing up at 8 every day, this is getting really old. I mean, I get my work done. Shouldn't that be what my organization cares about?
Right.
Well, good news, because that's what millennials care about. They chafe at the idea that you've got to have butt in seat, at 8 to 5 every day, as long as the work's getting done. And there's a lot of sense to that. Depends on your job, of course. And, of course, you always have people who run it for everybody else. But that does make a lot of common sense.
Yeah, it works perfectly for me. I think, again, being part of that generation as a Gen Xer was like, oh, that's how they don't care about stuff. They're lazy. And now I'm older, and it's like we're an important cog in the wheel of the economy. And, I don't think any generation has a lock on work ethic or how stuff gets done. And certainly you look at a generation, yeah, there's a lot of coddling and snowflaking and avocado toasting going on, but these people have worked hard their whole lives, academically speaking, and want some sort of payout and have learned the lessons of their parents, and that is, if you're loyal to a company, you're stupid. And there's a lot of truth in that. There's a lot of truth in that.
There is. There really is. I think there's like everything. There's a range here. So you can be loyal in your day to day. You can be loyal and you can operate with integrity. But way too often I hear, they really need me. I just feel really bad leaving. I'm like, oh my gosh. Really? Because I guarantee you they'd feel bad for maybe 10 minutes if they had to let you go. So, I think the millennials get that in terms of,
no question,
I'm going to stay as long as it makes sense for my career development to stay. And yes, they're young, so they are going to make mistakes.
You've talked about ghosting all the time, Julie, right?
Right.
Where they don't show, they got hired, they don't show up because they got a better job offer, and companies are all hacked off. And I laugh, and I may be the only one in my generation laughing because companies have done this to the employees for like forever. And I think turnabout's fair play. It's like, wait a minute, you got no problem that somebody showing up to work on a Tuesday or Friday and go, hey, you know what? We're just looking at the numbers. We don't need you anymore. See ya. Show you the door.
I just heard of a daughter of a friend who graduated from college. It was on her way to, moving to Chicago, signed a lease on an apartment, all ready to go. And the company's like, oh, we just revised our, second quarter forecast. We're rescinding all of the offers that we made to entry-level people. So now she's like, holy cow. I'm moving to Chicago because I put a deposit down. Now she's in job search mode right away, whether she wants to be or not. And she's all afraid now that because so many kids get offers before they graduate. And she's like, wait a minute, it's June. And I graduated in May. Are all these companies going to think I'm a loser and I had no offers? I'm like, no, they aren't. Just take a breath. Yeah. It's okay.
Because you can explain to them what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to lead with that because that can come across as bitter. I mean, yes, it's unfortunate. It happens. And I'm sure the company doesn't feels bad about it. I mean, anybody who had to deliver that message is going to feel bad about it. But you're 22. Yeah, great background. The job market's singing. So you're going to be fine.
You're going to have no problem.
So it happens all the time.
Right. One other thing you hear too, and I mentioned the work ethic thing. I think it just changes. My definition of work ethic is different than the millennials. But guess what? Yeah. My definition of work ethic was different than baby boomer, and baby boomer different than the greatest generation, and so it goes. What else is new here too? But the fact that if you're older and you're working for someone who's half your age, that's a problem. And it's a problem for, just little stuff, right? Like you said, I don't care if you're at your desk, just get the work done. There may be an issue with, with other things too, outside of that. When it comes, like business, what's business casual mean? My father-in-law, God bless him. He was over at our house a few years ago for something. It was I think one of the kids was communion, whatever it was. And, I got a suit on. I got no tie. He said, "Where's your necktie?" It's like, well, I left it in 1985 with the one you're wearing. And since then, he never wore a necktie again. And, cause I roasted him pretty good. And it's like, but, that's different. The business attire for his generation is you wear a jacket, wear a tie. And now it's polo shirt and khakis.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in between there. And,
sure.
I personally am not a fan of rumpled khakis and a golf shirt because for God's sakes, you're not playing golf. So I think there's a lot that you can wear in between that. You don't want to look like you just rolled out of bed. No matter how casual your workplace is, you don't have to go to that level. I also think, in terms of if you are 50-some years old and you're reporting to somebody now who's 28, 29, mm-hmm. and the longer that the older generation stays in the workforce, and we're going to want to, and in some cases we're going to have to, the more flexible we're going to have to be. And it's very hard to look at somebody who you have children the same age as and not think, you little snot nose, what do you know? Well, guess what? They know a lot of stuff we don't know. They know whether it's technology, they are, they're quick on their feet, they're fast thinkers, they're used to multitasking, but mostly they have learned how to get stuff done with a lot of distractions. But they can help you keep your skills up to date, keep your knowledge up to date, and the worst thing you can do in that situation is be like, blah, 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 blah. I'm not listening to anything about new technology. I'm not learning that. And I almost sometimes feel myself saying, oh, my gosh, my head is full of technology. I'm good. You don't need to learn anything else. Mm-hmm. But that's when you really start to show up as an inflexible person, old dog who can't learn new tricks. And that's how you end up on the layoff list.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. Well, I think this is important, too. Julie Bauke, our Career Sherpa here on the Scott Sloan Show, the BaukeGroup.com, that's BAUKE, the website, theBaukeGroup.com, career advisor, the best job coach in Cincinnati. It is on last Friday, and I obviously wasn't here from what we talked about with my mom, but Jeff Henderson, 36 years on the job here at 700 WLW as the news leader. And here is the guy, Jeff Henderson, who is part of the greatest generation, passing the torch to Jack Crumley as our new news director, who's part of the millennial generation. And there's part of the culture shock already began. Jeff, for years, has had a big bowl of candy, which he would replenish on his own pot of his own pocket. Had, little mini-sized Snickers bar, stuff like that. People come into his office, grab a handful of candy. Jack, on his first day of work Monday, brought in, ready for this one, a veggie tray. Jack, and that, how do you think that went over? And like Brian, the old bitter men like Matt Reese and Brian Combs don't like this new policy. He already began this Friday is going to be, he wants to do this on Fridays in the newsroom where you can bring your dog to work with you too, and also is offering a company day off in the newsroom if you go volunteer and do anything that's going to help the environment. So right away, all the old guys like Combs and Matt Reese are all bitching and moaning about how here comes this millennial Jack Crumley with his veggie tray and his environment destroying everything.
I don't believe you.
It's true.
What's Jeff Henderson going to do now?
Well, what do retired people do? Sit around and talk about how things were back in the old day and yell at kids for going on his lawn.
Oh, man. I don't know. I think you need something else to do.
He's retired. So Jeff retired Friday. That is a perfect topic. That's what happens when your boss is much younger. So what you're saying is Matt Reese and Brian Combs in particular need to wake the hell up and get with the program and have some avocado toast for breakfast. Julie, we'll talk again in a week. Thanks for coming on.
Okay.
Thanks again. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Bye.